Hi everybody, here Mike Reese for Martial Chat. Not very many comments were made or subjects or topics were given, so this time I decided to come up with a few of my own, and hopefully this will help spur some more conversation. And I'm hoping that people will start, share this more, get it out there more, because I'd like to get more and more uh, things out there, and I'd like to be able to make this, at least this part, grow. And it's because I think we need to challenge each other as martial artists and be able to push the envelope a little bit and be able to be open to talking about it. Okay? So that's the reason why I'm even doing this, is because I really think that we need to push each other. We need to expand on things that we train in, and the best way to do it is open up communication. Communication's a huge thing, guys, and I think one of the biggest problems is we have lack. I mean, I have some great conversations on Facebook. I'll be messaging people like my friend Simon McKay, great martial artist, great guy, has some great views, and people who follow him, other martial artists. We just had a big discussion about an article that was written in Black Belt by Mark Hatmaker. Mark. That guy is a great guy anyway, and he's very big into the Western boxing and wrestling and stuff like that, submission wrestling, more than like jiu-jitsu and things like that. He doesn't take anything away from him, he just prefers that style, his style of doing things, and he's really good at it, and he's very proficient. So anything he says about it is really good. And it was talking about the left lead and the right lead, people being a little more unorthodox in MMA than compared to boxing, where boxing they're standing with their left hand leading, compared to about 60%, only 60% of guys do that in MMA, where a lot of people, so they go a little southpaw. And we kind of had this huge discussion of, the jab knockouts and things like that. Great things being shown about sharing videos and stuff like that of, guys, showing, hitting that jab and knocking someone out and things like that. And I love that we opened it up to a discussion. Great discussion stuff. Great things that were coming out of everybody that was talking about it. And I'd like to have that here. I'd like to have response videos. I'd like to see people bringing up topics and saying things like that, asking me questions about my preference. What do I do? What do I think it'd be more lucrative for the training of someone in trying to train self-defense compared to combat sports and things like that. I mean, these are the topics that will happen. And right now I've got about 4 topics I've got right now and that I want to talk about today. And I'm not going to spend. I'll try to do my best not to spend so much time on them. First topic I want to talk about is how you train. This was spurred on through another message on what me and Simon were talking about, and he sent me a video about a guy talking about System I and how he trains, and it kind of just opened up all these different avenues of hands down, hands up. Why does it matter if I can go from hands down and block the shot from here, and things like that. I mean, a lot of different things coming from it. And I like what he was talking about. He goes, sparring, you get a lot of long distance sparring, which is long distance timing, a long distance avenues in that retrospect. And I kind of was like, okay, I can see where he's coming from on that. Instead of close distance timing and stuff like that, which actually is a huge difference in dynamic and huge difference in what's going to happen in those moments, those brief moments that you're like, oh, it's the shock value. How are you prepping your body, your mind, and all that stuff for that? How you train is going to be very indicative to what you're going to be doing outside of what you're training. They don't, when you take soldiers, you don't train them in obsolete ways of training. You don't give them a sword and tell them to go out in the battlefield with a gun. You do. Hopefully, you guys follow along with me. But you're not going to say, well, I'm going to give you this lance, and we're going to make you proficient with this lance, and you're going to be the baddest dude around with this lance. But when it comes to going out in combat, they hand them an M16 or an M4 or whatever they have, AR-15s, even an AK-47. Doesn't matter what they have. They hand that to them instead, and say, "I know that you're the baddest dude with the lance, but this is a gun war. Here's this. Now you got to do your best you can." He's never trained with the weapon. He's never been trained with the weapon proficiently, and now he's going to go without the weapon that they trained him with, and he goes out there and gets himself killed because he doesn't know the responsibilities of this weapon, because he's using the Lancer mentality, which was to go forward with a lance and try to kill the enemy instead of taking cover, getting cover and conceal, shooting around, basically clearing corners, being able to sight up, make sure that your sights are lined, all that stuff, correcting jams, things like that, clearing the weapon, all these things that are in, performance-based, what you need to learn how to do in that field, and when it comes up, you need to do that stuff. Why, so now it was counterproductive for them to do that. So why would I give someone skill sets that are not set up for defending themselves properly in a realistic avenue? If basically be the same, it'd be the same thing. I'm giving them cooking instructions to go learn how to fight, knife fight someone from the Philippines. Both have great knife skills. Chefs have great knife skills, but it's not Filipino knife fighting will get killed. Okay, so you got great skills in these avenues, and that's another thing. You got people like the MMA fighters, kickboxers, wrestlers, submission fighters, and these guys. They're all great athletes. They have great skill sets. But how they train for rules, they train for time limits, they train for one person only, they train for things that are not productive for street violence. When it comes to actual survival, surviving any type of street altercation, and not only street altercations, but surviving being attacked in general when it comes to just being violent. When people look at murderers and gangs and stuff, they're not known as like the top martial artists or kickboxers or boxers in the world. They're known as the most violent gang or person out there. And they probably have no training whatsoever. They just know violence, and they know it very, very well. So getting into that retrospect, am I ready to find someone that is just good at violence? I don't think you are. I think if you stood off with someone, possibly, but more than likely, this guy's not going to speak. He's not going to bow up on you. He's not going to puff out his chest and push you and start getting all tough with you. He's the guy that's more than likely that you just mouthed off and just thought you're tough. Then he allowed you to turn your back to go, he's nothing. Get back to whatever you're doing, and then he comes over and stabs you in the back of the neck, or he cleans you out with a bat, or he takes whatever is nearest to him and he beats you, and he doesn't stop. He doesn't hit you once and then back up and let you get back into a set. He hits you and then continues to hit you and use whatever he can to injure you. Are you prepared for that? If you're not, that's where the how-to train thing comes into. You're not training for that specific type of area. You're not. Same thing. I'm not going to say if I'm trained for that area, doesn't mean I can actually step into a ring with a guy who's been training and for months, and he's been training, getting his uppercut the best, or he's practicing his shooting in on me and taking the double leg and dropping me on my head and blah, 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 and he's doing all this stuff. I may not be prepared for that guy, because I'm prepared to, if a guy grabs my legs and puts me to the ground, I'm ready to grab him by the throat and bite off a piece of his nose, compared to going, oh, well, get in my guard position and now sweep the leg and whoop, I'll put my arm over it. Whoop, got a Kimura. I don't have a Kimura. Oh, I got to readjust. Can I switch my skill sets into that? Yes. Can they switch their skill sets into the other one? Sure. But what you do the most is how you're really going to respond in the very beginning. You're never going to respond with the thing you train the least. And me personally, I'm getting too old for, wanting to do competition and doing all that garbage. And honestly, I've tested myself. I've tried myself in all these one-on-one I'm good. I want to know what I can do to protect my family. I want to know what I can teach my family to send them out the door and they can actually protect themselves and defend themselves properly against the ever-growing amounts of violence that are growing in our nation, okay? That's what I want. So, and then it comes down to the physical and mental conditioning. That's also part of the how-to. Physical and mental conditioning. Physical conditioning, I really believe that it's underrated in the reality part. Some of these guys are so transfixed that is such an unnecessary need. You got all these guys that are like these reality-based guys. So there's a lot of them out there that are just really these big and very heavy-set guys, and you can tell they don't train often at all. I mean, physically train often at all because they already have what they believe is the best tool ever, and that's their mental conditioning. I'm not saying I'm like in this Adonis type shape, but I work out on a regular basis. My diet's not the best, thus the reason why I look the way I do, which I'm changing. And I'm starting to realize at my age, I ain't doing what I used to be able to do in my 20s and eat whatever I want and just go and, run it off. And now I'm back down to it's not a thing. Now things are a lot harder now. So I know what it takes to get me into shape, and I know what it takes to lose the weight. So that's what I'm doing now. But at the same time, I'm willing to go through that, though, because I believe my conditioning, physical conditioning, still has part in what happens on the street. And I've talked about this last time, was you don't want to have physical conditioning way low because of the fact that the adrenaline alone creates a whole different environment for your body. Can you handle the stress that your body's going through? Your body went under duress. If your body can't handle that type of duress, it's not just preparation through mental conditioning. I mean, that's one part of it, to be able to handle yourself and physically move. But if you physically cannot do it, you're not really putting yourself in those high, scary, dangerous situations in reality-based training. You're really not, because you're still in a controlled environment. So your really only way to do it is to make sure that you condition your body physically. Get it into shape. Get yourself healthy. Get yourself, motivated to do something more than just say, well, I'm a reality-based guy. Don't worry about it. I can kick you in the throat. Okay, well, I'll kick you in the knee and then I'll hit you in the throat. Whatever. That kind of a thing. And that's just not going to happen in my case. You know what I mean? So I just don't believe that you need to only work on mental. But I do believe that a lot of people are very healthy, and these guys got great conditioning, but their mental training for what it is that what should be happening for street is all confused. They believe that all you need is this. That's not necessarily true. And honestly, it's not true at all. You need a understanding of psychology, body mechanics. You need to educate yourself. It's more than just the will to want to fight. If you are uneducated on how to do something properly, you're basically just going to go through the motions and you're going to do what everyone else does, and you've really accomplished nothing with all your years of training but turned into somebody who's well conditioned, but you still fight like the rest of the ignorant people out there. And that's just not what it was made for. It was to help step you up. Okay? Martial arts was not to step you down or keep you in the same place. It was to help increase your ability and skill sets. Okay? And this is where we got, and here we go. We're right down to where I want, and this is where we're going. What is martial arts to you? For me, martial arts that's what it was made for, was for war. It was for military fighting. It was basically advancing your skill sets from going a complete and total civilian, this basically a person who is not used to violence, a person that possibly would not react very well in a violent situation, to someone who is elevated up to that point of, I can handle myself in dangerous situations. When violent situations arise, I can actually excel in this, and I'm not going to run away from danger, but I will run to danger to either help someone who can't help themselves, protect the people that I need to protect, or I'm going to protect myself and survive this situation because I'm not going to allow it to overwhelm me. Making educated decisions, though, goes to mental training, but by making educated and well-trained choices and decisions. That's martial arts to me. What is it to everyone else? I don't know. There is so many reasons why people do martial arts. The biggest one, however, and this is what drives me crazy about a lot of schools, and that maybe it's changing now, but back when I first did a study on this, back when I started, it's only statistics, and statistics are all messed up anyway, but at the same time, there is some validity to it, but not, like, I wouldn't like put everything into it. However, I am going to state a statistic. I'm not going to state it. I'm just going to tell you the source was one of the number one reasons, and it was the number one reason why people got into martial arts, was for self-defense. I think I heard someone, I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard it somewhere, and they said to defend yourself. Oh, it was by my buddy Glenn Hardman. He was talking about it. He goes, most people say they want it for self-defense, but in reality, it's not for self-defense. It's because they want to learn how to defend themselves to gain more confidence. And it's actually more of a confidence builder than it is for that. And he goes, and that's just not what self-defense should be for. So, and that's why I wish I was close to some of my buddies. I wish I was closer to that way we could get together and do this on video, because some of the responses these guys give me are fantastic. I mean, because it is true. A lot of people want to learn this stuff because it builds their confidence. It makes them feel good about what they can do. They don't, but then there was a show I just watched. He said some people learn this stuff. Some people learn self-defense to prevent things from ever anything bad happening to them. And there's other people out there that learn that stuff, learn it to never let it happen again. One of the most ingrained people that will really study with you, the people that are going to listen to every word you say, and they're going to watch every move you make, and they're going to practice and train with intent and complete they're going to go hardcore into their training, are people who have suffered violence. They've gone through it and they survived it, maybe briefly, maybe some wacky miracle, something happened. I don't know. But sometimes these guys, they survive the attack, and now they don't want to ever be victimized again. Those are the people that, seriously, they are the ones that I focus on it. These are the people that I'm trying to reach the most when I train people. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm victimized. I don't want to be injured. Things like that. And then I knew people that they lived high risk. There was times that they traveled in high risk circles, and they wanted training. And one guy wanted knife training, while his wife just wanted self-defense training, and it's because they traveled in high risk circles. And when they traveled with these people, it was like, well, I want to make sure I'm lit. And she was teeny tiny, like really petite and really short, just a very small, and she was an older lady. I taught her how to handle herself, though, that she could throw a guy that I was bigger than her and weighed more than her, and even her husband was bigger, was taller and bigger than me, and she could handle herself and throw around a little, was able to handle her own. And same thing with another a friend I used to train with. He was about 280, big dude, big guy. And his wife was very small, and she was able to, he said, I'm going to do this with intent, and she would get away from him. And he would try to grab him. She would jack him up, and then he'd tell me that later, and she would tell me that later, and it was just kind of funny how they were like, dude, that stuff works, okay? And this guy, he trained with special forces guys, and, I think it was Fort Benning and stuff was it Benning? I can't remember. But he traveled, did special forces training with these guys, or he trained with the special forces, special operations groups and stuff like that. He said some of the guys that he grappled with the most were SEALs. So, and he was a big dude, and he could grapple. He had a lot of speed on him. I was really actually scared when he started moving at that size that he was. I was thinking, oh, dude, oh man, this is not going to be good for me. So, but it was fun, and so that's what I focus on. Can I help people get healthier? Can I help them not only get healthier physically so they can handle the duress that their body's going to go through, but can I also educate them well enough that they have the tools that they need, and then can I help them break through walls and barriers of either I've never been in a violent situation or I've been in a violent situation and now I have to break through the wall of actually acting instead of just allowing things to happen. And you have to break through that barrier differently with them. Are you good enough to be able to do that? Are you that's what you're trying to push through. For me, that's what I'm doing anyway, and that's how I teach people. And that's, again, how you train, what you do, and what martial arts is to me is that's how I train people. What it is to me is how I train people, and how people are going to utilize the things that I give them. Martial arts versus violence. I've heard, I had people come in and they went to schools before in the town I was in. When I opened my school, they had people come in and they would watch and they would never come back. At first it was like, whoa. And then we get into the actual drills and some of the actual scenario training that I'd get into, and they were spooked. They were like, whoa, that is incredibly violent. And I said, what are you training your kid for? This is not a trophy school. I do not give medals. I don't take them to do anything like that. We train for straight up physical confrontations and violent altercations that we have to get through. It's a have to. You either walk away from it, or they've given you no other choice but to fight. You have to fight. And I mean that you have to. It's not a, well, I'm going to because he said something to me, or, well, no, it's they wouldn't let you walk away. They backed you into a corner. They put their hands on you first, or whatever the situation was. They surrounded you. Whatever the case might be, you no longer had the choice or option to walk away from the fight, so you act into violent situations. And when I explode into those type of situations and do scenarios, and when I demo it, people automatically go, whoa, okay, there's a lot of violence coming out of this. And I tell people, define violence. I said violent situation, everything is, if my intent is to do harm to another person, whether for points or for trophies or for competition, or if it's to get myself out of a bad situation so I can live, what kind of violence I'm doing is different. Violent for sport is different for violence on the street. You have to go a step higher when it comes to violence on the street, because you have to start doing things that possibly are going to make people a little squeamish. When people talk to me about fighting and violence, I automatically get this response: I would never want to fight you. I would never want to fight you. And the reason why is that because I tell people, I said, I don't screw around. I don't give you the option of wanting to play this game of, punch, 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 punch. I'm going to lead, and then I'm going to go. I don't do that crap. I don't allow other people to do that junk. When I've ever fought, it's never been about how good I am with my little kickboxing ability. It's never been about that. It's always been about, I'm going to get in you, I'm going to get inside your range, and I'm going to get inside, and I'm going to destroy you. I break your knees, I'm going to cripple I'm going to break your clavicle, I'm going to go for your eyes, I'm going to fracture your trachea. I'm not thinking I'm going to hit this target, hit that target, hit this target. No, I'm thinking break this target, fracture that target, rip this target, tear into this target. That's what I'm thinking. Rupture this, break that. Those are the thoughts that go into me. Because I don't believe in keeping someone able to still fight back or chase me down. If that so happens, or if they have a weapon that they don't, if they don't pull a weapon right away, they're probably. I think everybody's armed when I face off with them. If there's a confrontation at Walmart, I automatically assume that person is armed and he is dangerous. And people say, why do you have that mentality? You don't trust. I said, because I do not trust human people. Human beings at all are untrustworthy in my opinion. I do believe that there is a point where you can give trust. But that's after they've shown you respect and you give them respect back. And yes, then unfortunately you do give over your trust. And that's just something you're going to have to put out there in faith and believing and just saying, okay, I'm allowing that. But when it's a stranger and they're mad and they're hostile, I'm not giving them that. I'm not going to give them that type of, I'm not going to give them that kind of trust. No way. Someone who comes up to you hostile, I automatically assume that hostile individual is dangerous and they have weapons. Why? Because if I came up to someone hostile, I am dangerous and I'm normally armed. So I just take it as people are like that. And if I don't, that's the time I get stabbed or I get shot. So how you train is what you're going to do. What is your definitions behind martial arts versus violence? If it's too violent for you, then more than likely you're not looking for some sort of reality look at how fighting is done or how self-defense is done. How, what martial arts is to you is what you're going to look for in your training. More than likely, if you think what martial arts is to you is cage fighting, UFC, you don't need to go to to do any type of self-defense school because you're not going to be happy with it. And when it comes to the physical conditioning and stuff like that, please do both. Don't do one or just one or just the other one. You got to do both. You got to condition yourself and you have to educate yourself. Either that or you're spreading ignorance or you're just allowing yourself to be ignorant about certain situations. And even though you're educated on the fact that your body goes under duress, you're not training anybody to handle that, and that means you're still wrong about doing it. You're still teaching poor things. So that'll do it for me today, though, guys. I know these always seem to be a little long, but I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep doing these. Give me some topics, guys. Let's talk about these. Let's open up the communications in the martial arts world. I mean, we have this kind of group is honestly some of the most difficult and egotistical people I've ever met, when it should be the most humble, willing to learn, willing to talk about things type of individuals around, in my opinion. And yet we have some of the biggest egos. Let's keep talking, though, guys. Let's go back, and I will see you guys again. I'm going to put another one out tomorrow. And I'm going to start doing Fridays. It's going to be a little different. I'm going to do movies on Fridays. I'm going to watch Red Belt this week. It's actually kind of one of my top martial art movies. And I'm going to review that movie for you guys. And we're going to talk a little bit about that movie, the martial arts in that movie. Okay? So I appreciate that. So you guys keep on watching and keep on commenting, okay? Share and like, okay? And let's keep chatting. Later.